Shiny Pokémon have been a part of the franchise since the release of Gold and Silver back in 1999, introducing the feature with the famous Red Gyarados. Ever since that edition, the concept of finding these rare sparkling Pokémon has evolved into a large part of the games and community as a whole. The origin of why Shinies were created is still unknown to this day, but there are speculations that they were made to show off more of the color palettes of the Game Boy Color, or to make the aforementioned Red Gyarados stand out from the blue of the lake, as Gyarados is normally also blue. Either way, this feature has stood the test of time as it has grown and changed with each new installment into the Pokémon franchise. And today, we're going to be covering them all. So let's go! Sorry, that was a bad joke. As mentioned before, Shinies originated in Gold and Silver, with the shiny odds being 1 in 8,192. The shiny sparkle for these games came with this visual and sound. At this time, shinies were extremely rare and a true sight to behold, as there was little to no information on what they were, and no methods for hunting them outside of soft resetting until you got a shiny. You just had to rely on sheer luck outside of Gyarados and the gift egg from Mr. Pokémon having a 14% chance of shining in Pokémon Crystal version. An extra fun fact is this is the only generation in which a shiny can be lost by running away outside of the Safari Zone in following generations. Generation 3 did not come out with any new changes to the format of shinies outside of the change in the sparkle sound and visuals, which are as follows. Generation 4 introduced the first shiny hunting mechanic, which was Poké-Radar chaining, which is where you would encounter and catch or knock out the same Pokémon in a chain until you found a patch of grass that would sparkle, resulting in a guaranteed shiny. The odds of this were capped at a huge rate of 1 in 200, and could be continued even after finding a shiny until the chain was broken by encountering a Pokémon that was not the target. This generation also introduced the first unintentional ability to wildly manipulate shiny odds with the popular Cute Charm glitch. For those unfamiliar with the process, Pokémon has several factors that determine if it is shiny, but this glitch basically allowed someone to manipulate their trainer ID and find shinies at an alarming rate, as long as they had a Pokémon with the Cute Charm ability in the front of their party and they encountered a Pokémon of the opposite gender. On that note, this is also the generation that brought about gender-different forms, thus allowing for slightly alternate shiny Pokémon to exist. The shiny effects for this game are as follows. Generation 5 brought us one of, if not the most well-known shiny hunting methods, in the Masuna method, named after one of the original creators of the Pokémon franchise, Junichi Masuda, which is where you would trade for a Pokémon, preferably a Ditto so it can breed with anything, from a game with a different country of origin, or simply put, from a game in a different language. You then breed said different language Pokémon with the Pokémon of your choosing, boosting the shiny odds to an at the time astounding rate of 1 in 1,638. Generation 5 also brought with it the introduction of one of the most coveted items for shiny hunters, the Shiny Charm. This item was first rewarded to players for catching every Pokémon in the Unova Dex in Black 2 and White 2, and brought their shiny odds down from 1 in 8,912 to 1 in 4,096, and would also stack on top of the increased odds of the methods for hunting moving forward. The shiny encounters for this generation looked and sounded like this. Generation 6, along with transitioning the Pokémon franchise into 3D, also made the permanent change of the base shiny odds starting at 1 in 4,096, rather than the previous installments 1 in 8,192, with the Shiny Charm then increasing your odds to 1 in 1,365, resulting in massive growth to the popularity of shiny hunting. This generation also introduced 4 whole new shiny hunting methods, in Horde Hunting, which generally is just a method due to the ability to encounter 5 Pokémon at once, thus increasing your odds of finding a shiny, and inadvertently leading to what is possibly the most common method of failing shinies, as you would have to knock out one of them if you were to encounter multiple in the same horde. It also introduced Chain Fishing, which limited the pool of Pokémon to hunt to water spawns only, but was rather effective. With no confirmed odds, it is widely believed to also get up to odds similar to 1 in 200. The final method X and Y introduced in this generation was the Friend Safari, which was varied, but to put it simply, you could add friends, and if they also had a copy of Pokemon X or Y, you could visit their Friend Safari, which would spawn up to 3 Pokemon of one type with increased odds of 1 in 1,526 without the Shiny Charm, and 1 in 512 with the Shiny Charm. The Gen 3 remakes as a part of Gen 6 also introduced DexNav hunting, which is a similar method to PokeRadar hunting of Gen 4, except it's a little easier, did not explicitly show the encounter would be shiny as it would with a shiny patch, and came with other potential bonuses like hidden abilities, higher levels, and unusual move pools. The shiny sparkles of this gen are the following. Gen 7 introduced us to the method of SOS calling, which is where you would weaken the opposing Pokemon, causing it to occasionally call for help. Upon knocking out said help, the shiny odds would increase up to 1 in 683 odds, and resetting after 255 called encounters. This method also came with some wild variety, with certain Pokemon encountered having chances to call a different Pokemon rather than one of the same species, from instances of Marini spawning from Corsola and attacking the Corsola, to Bagon sometimes calling an underleveled Salamence. Ultra Sun and Moon also introduced the Ultra Wormhole hunting method, which was limited to a very small pool of Pokemon, but TLDR, the farther you travel into Ultra Space, the higher the odds of these encounters being shiny. Quick aside for Pokemon Let's Go, it is technically Gen 7. It also brought back a chaining method of catching the same Pokemon 31 or more times in a row to boost the odds to roughly 1 in 273, and is the first edition of shinies appearing shiny in the overworld outside of the original overworld shiny red Gyarados. Anyways, the sparkles of this generation looked and sounded like this. Generation 8 is a bit problematic in terms of shiny hunting, because for the longest time it was debated if the shiny odds were even functional. The only real method was KOing and or catching 500 of the same species of Pokemon, which either boosted your odds to 1 in 512 with the shiny charm, or gave you a 3% chance to have these boosted odds. There were also raid den events that could be manipulated until finding a shiny by manually changing the date on your Switch in front of the event spawn raid den until it was shiny. This generation did, however, attempt to introduce a rarer variation of shiny by adding a different animation of sparkles, which was meant to be more rare in having square sparkles on the Pokemon. But an error in the code resulted in this being the common shiny sparkle for wild encounters, while the normal sparkle effect was common for hatched eggs via the Masuda method. The DLC for these games also introduced us to Dynamax Adventures, a gauntlet of using random Pokemon gifted to you to defeat 4 Pokemon in a row, with the final one being a legendary. If you caught all 4 Pokemon you defeated, you would have roughly a 1 in 100 chance of finding a shiny. All in all, this gen was a bit of a mess when it comes to changes to shiny hunting, but I'm still holding out hope that they'll try their hand at rarer shinies again. Anyways, it's that time again, so here are the Gen 8 shiny effects. Now I know Legends Arceus is technically deemed as Generation 8, but in terms of shiny hunting and game quality, it's in a league of its own, so we're giving it its own pseudo-generation. You know, kinda like pseudo-legendaries? Moving on. PLA is a fantastic installment into the franchise, and had the excellent addition of Overworld Shinies, as a result of the battle sequence simply being a transition of the camera, rather than an entire new battle scene. Along with this, Pokemon would sparkle and make a sound in the overworld, allowing you to know when a shiny was nearby, and would then sparkle again when battled. This game introduced a new method of shiny hunting by adding a feature where, by completing certain objectives related to one particular Pokemon, you could permanently boost that Pokemon's shiny odds. This game also introduced mass outbreaks, which are just a group of the same Pokemon that have a chance to appear on the map and will have boosted shiny odds when battling or catching. Now on to present day with Gen 9. Sparkle Power sandwiches are a big change to shiny hunting, if you're lucky enough to get the Herba Mystica to make the sandwiches in the first place. But I digress. The boosted shiny odds of 1 in 1024, on top of the sheer number of spawns you can see on a screen at a time, makes shinies pretty easy to encounter in these games. There is now the difference from Legends Arceus, where you no longer hear or see a shine if a Pokemon is shiny, so you have to remain vigilant in order to spot that shiny. Especially the hard ones to notice. I'm looking at you, Tandemaus and Flabebe. Beyond those few exceptions of hard to notice shinies, I think all the changes to encountering shiny Pokemon add new and interesting elements to shiny hunting, and are part of the reason why it is such a large part of the games. What do you think of the changes to shinies over time? Which sparkle is your favorite? Do you want them to bring back alternative shiny sparkles? Is not having the sounds and visuals in the overworld a terrible oversight by Game Freak? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I look forward to hearing your opinions and discussing with you. Overall, shiny hunting has come a long way, and I didn't even touch on Pokemon Go's contribution to shiny hunting, with loads of shiny exclusive forms, community days, and so much more, or the various Pokemon spin-offs that have included this staple of the franchise, from the fun and wacky discolored shinies of the Colosseum titles, the shiny costumes of Battle Revolution, the anime, the TCG, or any of the other shinies being included in so many other titles. I mean, come on, you can even shiny hunt in your sleep now. Point is, shiny Pokemon are everywhere, and I for one am still thrilled by the concept of finding these different colored Pokemon, and if it interests you too, I ask you to please like and subscribe, as I plan to continue sharing my enjoyment of shinies, as well as doing some hunting of my own to complete the living shiny decks. I'll be sharing some of my shiny finds here on this channel, as well as hunting live on my Twitch streams at twitch.tv/ZionZinZ7. If that sounds like something you'd like to see, come stop by and hang out. I'd love to get to talk to you about shinies and share our experiences together. With all that out of the way, always remember, tomorrow's another bright, shiny day.